Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. A bit of a different one for me this morning in that I can speak to you and you can't speak back. But welcome to our big switch off webinar. Again, I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us this morning. We really do appreciate it. So today, alongside my colleague Johan, we'll be talking about the PSTN switch off. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, but you want a bit more information as to what it is, how it could impact you, and how Lily can help. My name's Joel. I'm the internal sales manager at Lily. And my role today is to tell you how Lily can help you and answer any questions you may have in the Q&A at the end of the session. But for now, I'll pass you over to my colleague Johan to introduce himself and get the webinar properly underway. Thank you very much.
Hello all, so I'm Johan. I work over at Gamma, which is one of Lily's suppliers from a telecoms point of view. And my job today is talking you through the PSTN switch off, and I'll break it down for you. So initially we've got an agenda. So what is a PSTN switch off? Ultimately, I'll be talking to you about how your broadband is going to change and how your voice solution is going to change to something that we call a VoIP outcome. Now, it sounds a little bit scary, but it's really not. VoIP is something that you will have used or will be using it on a daily basis, such as FaceTime, which is a VoIP solution. So it is something you will already be familiar with, but I'm just going to break it down for you. I will talk to you about the timescales of the rollout as well. So it's something that BT Openreach introduced back in 2017. In the next slide, I will go into it in a little bit more detail, so it brings it to life a little bit more and what that looks like. The third point is the risk associated. Now, this is more of a risk from the point of view in terms of migration and maybe not migrating in time. That is where the risk actually comes from. It will present some challenges in terms of actually migrating from the PSTN analog lines to the new all-fibre network, but that risk of not migrating far outweighs the risk of migrating. We are also going to give you some sort of strategy, so give you something to work with. We're not just going to throw loads of information at you for you to absorb. We are going to give you some tools and equip you with the knowledge that will allow you to make informed decisions on how you're going to deal with the switch off. And then we've got some solutions in place and how that looks for you. So some VoIP solutions, connectivity solutions. Ultimately, Lily will be the people here who can help you and guide you with any questions that you may have, not only throughout this webinar, but also after this webinar. Finally, at the end, any burning questions that you may have, any information that that you've not extracted from this webinar, you'll be able to ask. There will be a free type box, and myself, Joel, will be able to assist with that. So if we get into the crux of it a little bit. So there's 4 points here that I'm going to gloss over, give you a little bit of information around that you will be able to take away. Now, the first of which, what is the PSTN network? Now, PSTN actually stands for Public Switch Telephone Network. And ultimately what this is, it's the copper wiring in the ground. It's that legacy dated infrastructure in the ground that routes your calls and also routes your broadband. So what enables you to surf the internet. Now, this is decades and decades old. It's been around since 1876, so a very, very long time. Now, there's been some minor tweaks and minor adaptations to this network, but no real change. So you can already see how this is something that does need to be upgraded, why BT Openreach have pumped a lot of money into this to get this new all-IP, all-fibre network rolled out. And obviously change is something that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Nobody really likes change, but ultimately this change is all for the greater good. Now, it's not just landlines that will be affected, so it's not just your phones, the way you route phone calls and the way you take calls and your connectivity that will be affected. It's also other things such as CCTV that you may have on your premises, or maybe alarm lines or lift lines. In the third bullet point, I will give you a little bit more information around that and what that actually means and what you also need to do and the research you need to do around that. But we will equip you with the knowledge today. Ultimately, this change is actually happening because the infrastructure, the copper lines, the legacy lines actually in place now aren't fit for purpose. As I said, this infrastructure has been around since 1876. and we can all see the rate at which modern technology is advancing, it is evolving. It's evolving at an alarming rate, and the infrastructure in place that actually props up the technology that we use and consume on a daily basis just isn't fit to serve it. Hence why we are now rolling that all IP, all fibre network out. There is a real need for more bandwidth. Us as consumers, us as end users, business owners, we want those faster speeds, we want those greater speeds. And we also need to future-proof our future technology, our technology with this all IP network, hence the migration. The migration date is actually happening in 2025. And there is another slide that breaks down the timescales of that and how that looks and which areas are going into the migration period quicker than others. So you can actually see that and you can visualize that. And I will talk through that in the next slide as well. But that is ultimately 2025 is the date that we will be migrating, finally migrating from legacy services to that new fibre network. Now, in terms of some of the timescales we've got here, 2017, as you can see from the bottom, that is when BT Openreach, 2016, 2017 is when BT Openreach actually announced the migration date. It had announced the plan in place that they were going to set for this rollout. 2018, they started throwing out they implemented a strategy in terms of when they were going to put somewhere in a stop cell, which areas they were going to roll this new fibre network out, which areas would come towards a 2025 migration date, and how they were ultimately going to tackle this, because it is a big job. It's not something that you can do overnight. It's something that takes years and years, and it is years in the making. 2020 is when the final 5-year PSTN switch-off warning came into play. So we're obviously kicking on now. We're in the middle of 2023. So ultimately, this isn't far around the corner. So it's something that you do need to start thinking about. Lily are here on hand to give you that guidance and give you any information that you will need with this migration. 2023 is when a national stop cell will come into place. So that's actually September 2023. And what a stop cell means is all the analog lines that you are currently using, you will no longer be able to repurchase those. So maybe your broadband and your landlines are up for renewal and you're on those old legacy lines. Come 2023, September 2023, you will no longer be able to purchase those. You will have to move over to that all fibre network and choose some sort of VoIP solution, which again, Lily can aid you with. 2025 is the official end of life state. So that is the set in stone migration date. Now, what that means is legacy services will no longer operate anywhere in the country come December 2025. And again, the next slide will give you some more information on that. For the people asking, are there any signs of those timescales moving? Absolutely not. BT Openreach are being quite firm with this. They are sticking to this and they're adhering to these timescales, ultimately because it affects their bottom line. And when money's involved, they will act upon this. Now, another thing that I will say is we've got quite a lot of engineers working on that PSTN network. Now, the engineers that are working on that, they are of the older generation because it is legacy. It has been around for a while. Any new engineers coming through are working on that all IP network. So the cost it actually incurs to bring out an Openreach engineer working on that PSTN network is a lot of money. Hence why they are looking to adhere to these guidelines, because it is affecting their bottom line ultimately. Now, before when I talked about, is it just the landlines? No, it's not. Landlines are the obvious impacted services. Your broadband is the obvious impacted services. But so are things like CCTV. Anything that hooks up to your analog lines, your legacy copper lines, CCTV, alarm lines, lift lines, payment methods such as EOLs, so tills, they can all essentially be affected by the analog circuits. So this is where you will need to do your due diligence. You will need to speak to Lily, understand the solutions and the outcomes and what it actually means to you as a business. But again, we will equip you with the resources you need. If changes aren't made, things could happen, ramifications are there, such as a loss of service, which can impact your business. You could potentially lose your phone numbers, which is obviously customer facing and which are massively important to businesses, no matter the size, small or big. So again, we do implore you to do your research. We do implore you to get in touch with your providers, such as Lily, who can help you through the process. They are here to hold your hand through this, and we're not going to leave you in the lurch about this. Now, the All IP network, this is something to get quite excited about because we are going to witness speeds of up to 10 times faster thanks to this All IP network. All of the country is moving over. It's not just pockets of the country. It's not just certain areas. It is the whole of the UK. And they are looking to roll this out and speed up the whole network ultimately. We are in good company as well. Germany have gone ahead with this successfully. Spain have gone ahead with this successfully. France are majority of the way there. They're 98% of the way there. And all their rollouts have been massively successful. So as a country, as BT Openreach, we have got benchmarks to go off, and it has been tried and tested. It has been done, and those countries are reaping the benefits of that. Japan and Sweden are also in the midst of doing this, so it is being rolled out on a global level, country by country. So we are certainly in good company. As a result of this All IP network, we will witness a 70 to 80% reduction in faults on the network, which is massive. You guys don't need to worry about your broadband going down, about your landlines going down. You can get on with the stuff that you need to get on with. Let BT Openreach worry about that. But also, another statistics, I do like my statistics, more data, we push more data over the internet in 10 minutes than between the start of time to 2003. Now, if that doesn't highlight the need for greater bandwidth and greater speeds that we as consumers and business owners ask for, then I don't know what does. So it is something that is quite exciting. Now, just to break it down further, this is a time frame of the compelling events of what is going on, when he's going into a stop sell, where he's going into a stop sell. I think when BT Openreach initially announced this back in 2016, 2017, people thought they had all the time in the world. Oh, it wasn't going to be for another 8-9 years that they were actually rolling this out. We can sort of take a back seat. We don't need to worry about this. Looking at the date and the time now, we're halfway through 2023. So time is really starting to kick on. We are really starting to get through this timeline. Now, what I will say is, I'll start at the start of this timeline. Back in Salisbury in December 2020, that is when we had our first stop sell in the country. Now, just to reiterate what I said before, that is when we can no longer sell various products, legacy broadband and analog lines into those areas. If you've got consumers and businesses in those areas who still have existing contracts on those analog lines, that is absolutely fine. They're free to use them. But if a contract has come up for renewal, they will no longer be able to purchase those analog lines. They'll have to move over to that fibre and that VoIP solution for their voice. Same again happened a few months later in May 2021. So we're starting to see it ramp up a little bit. You then fast forward to June 2021. That is when 117 exchanges, so 117 areas within the country actually went into a stop sell. So BT Openreach are kicking on with this. They are adhering to their guidelines and the time scale set in place, because it does just go back to that point on it affecting their bottom line. Ultimately, they aren't going to want that to happen, so they are adhering to this. You then look at just over a year and a half later, from 117 exchanges going into a stop sell to 2,900. So this is something that is ramping up at quite an alarming rate, to be honest. So it is something that needs to be in the forefront of your mind. Once you've done it, once you've looked at it and spoken to Lily about it, chosen your solution, looked at what you need, then you're ahead of the curve. You don't need to worry about it anymore. So it's best being on the front foot. You don't want it to get to 2023 and 2025 and sort of be on the back foot and be forced into making this migration. And potentially lose various resources in your business as a result. So it's just something we want to give you, which will enable you to get on the front foot. One point as well that I would like to talk about is sort of the consequences of not moving over. Now, this isn't to scaremonger. This is just to give you the information that you need to enable you to make informed decisions. Now, the next slide does cover it in a little bit more detail. But as you can see, there's an end of life period, which is our first end of life along the timeline in April 2023. Now we're obviously in June now, so that was a couple of months ago. Now, what those consequences look like. So for anyone in Mildenhall and Salisbury who was still on legacy services, legacy circuits, that old dated broadband, they had a chance to move over when the stop sell came into place back in December 2020 and May 2021. If they are still on those services in an end-of-life period in Mildenhall and Salisbury in April 2023, BT Openreach compiled a degradation list of all of the services, all of the companies who were still on those legacy circuits, that they were going to reduce on a bandwidth scale. So they were basically going to prevent them from accessing the internet. Now, that was the first of one of the consequences. The second consequence came at the start of this month. So on the 7th of June, call barring came into effect. So the landlines were actually restricted. Now, anyone who was still on those circuits as of the 5th of June in Mildenhall and Salisbury, if they tried making an outbound call to any number other than a free phone number, which is 999 111 emergency services, for example, that call would be rerouted through to their provider, and their provider would basically say, you need to move over because you're not allowed to make these calls as you're on legacy services. So the consequences are real. It is really important to understand this and know this, which will enable you to make those informed decisions and start thinking about moving over. Now, obviously, you've then got Stop Sell in 2023, which is on a national level. We've already seen it in Salisbury, Mildenhall, 2,900 exchanges. So they are trying to ramp that up. And then obviously you've got your end of life in 2025. And there is no reason as to why this will be pushed back. So these dates are pretty set in stone. And this is where we're up to with it. Business risks. So it's never nice talking about the risks, but it is something that we do need to address. Ultimately, we don't want to leave it late, and you guys don't want to leave it late in terms of moving your businesses over from that PSTN network to this new all IP fiber network, because ultimately there could be a loss of service, which means you could lose the ability to make calls, receive calls. You could lose the ability to surf the internet and use the internet at your disposal, which is what a lot of businesses need to do. Whether you're a small business, which takes a couple of calls a day that only results in a small amount of revenue, that is still massively important for a small business. Or if you're a larger entity and you take thousands of calls a day, ultimately each call could result in a larger amount of revenue. So whether you're a small business or large business, this is massively important to understand. You could also lose your number if you don't start switching over before end of life happens. Now, if you lose your number, that is a customer-facing number. It's numbers that customers call you on because they know that's how they can get through to the people that they need to get through to. So ultimately, losing that number again can be catastrophic for a business, regardless of the size. Something else that you just need to understand how this can all be avoided. Lily are there on hand. You can seek guidance from them. They will be able to talk you through this and what this means. So it is ultimately risk management. Obviously, the risk far outweighs, from a migration point of view, if you're not to migrate, it far outweighs migrating at an earlier stage, getting ahead of that curve. Obviously, it is going to present a challenge migrating because you do need to do your research and you need to do a little bit of homework around this. But it is for the greater good, and you will be grateful once you have done it. Just moving on, obviously, we've given you information around what PSTN is, the PSTN network, what the new network is that we're actually migrating over to. We've given you information around the business risks and the timescale set in place by BT Openreach. But ultimately, what we do want to do as well is give you some sort of strategy to go away with, give you the tools. You can have a look, you can do your research, and we've put a 4-step action plan in place for your benefit. Now, first of all, what you want to do when we're migrating is you need to understand your current PSTN footprint. So what it is that you currently use, maybe what it is that you currently use does work. So in terms of actually migrating, you want to migrate to something that's almost like for like. Now, maybe you don't want to migrate to something you need to be paying loads more money. So this is, again, where you need to do your due diligence. Ensuring that the compatibility of your new technology that you're using is actually functioning on your existing infrastructure. If you have noticed slower speeds, can that existing infrastructure keep up with the demands of the new technology that you're using? Maybe not. So again, this is why you do need to start thinking about moving over. Understand the current bills you pay and the estate size. and again, how that translates into the new network, and how much do you want to be paying for your new phone systems and your VoIP solutions. Maybe you don't want to be paying a lot. Maybe you have got basic telephony requirements. And again, that is absolutely fine, because Lily have a wide ranging product portfolio, and they can bespoke and tailor those telephony systems to you as a customer's needs. You also need to think and bear in mind how long it actually takes to train a new team on various solutions, because sometimes it does take a little bit of time. It might take a couple of weeks to get used to this. So again, it is just things that you need to bear in mind. There could be teething issues with this new telephony phone system, but ultimately, again, Lily are there to provide any demonstrations, any help you may need on this. Also, Lily are a massively competent partner who can provide minimal disruption during this migration period. So again, just something to think about. Next point, where can you start? So what it is that you guys as business owners, whether it's smaller businesses or larger business, where can you actually start? Ultimately, you need to understand which areas are going into a stop sell, when they're going into a stop sell, so you can begin preparing from that point of view. There's tools that Lily will have at your disposal that you can use at your disposal, but there's also tools online on the BT OpenReach website, which can help you out with that. So it just enables you to understand where your area is at in relation to the PSTN switch off. It's also understanding the consequences of not switching over. So obviously I highlighted that in the business risks slide in the previous slide. So it's understanding that. Do you want to leave it late? Do you want to then be forced into migrating? Because this is something you are ultimately going to have to do further down the line if you don't do it now. So let's try and get ahead of the curve. Let's avoid confusion, avoid delays, liaise with the providers that you've got, and let's try and get this moving. The third point, you do want to pick a solution. So we're aware that both connectivity, so both your broadband and your voice is going to change, because there's no longer going to be landlines. So it's understanding which of those and how you're going to tackle that. What options are available? So again, speak to Lily. They'll be able to provide you with a whole host of options that are suitable for your business. Do your research on this. Have a consultation with Lily, whether it's a meeting, Teams meeting. They'll be able to provide some collateral, and let them know what works best for you. Maybe what works with your current phone system. Have you got basic needs? Maybe you want to start upscaling because you've got more requirements that you want. So they can help you out with all that. Finally, on the 4-step action plan. This is time to take action. You do want to plan for the future by opting for a solution. Whatever solution that may be, you do want to think about it. You do want to start taking action on this. Ultimately, this will also future-proof your business with the fibre network. That is what we're here to do. We are here to provide a future-proofing solution that will enable you to move forward as a business. Because, let's be honest, this isn't something you really want to be worrying about and spending a load of time on. So the quicker you can get this done, the benefits you will reap from that. Also understanding the costings of this, maybe the downtime, if there is a little bit of downtime, the timescales, and this is all something Lily will be able to talk you through. And how this will impact you. But the quicker you do this, the more beneficial it will be for your business. And that is what a successful switch-off strategy looks like in 2023. There we go. From a voice solution point of view, now these are some of the various solutions we've got in place. This is a process that was created by Gamma, and as a result, Lily, who we supply, do have access to this, which therefore means you have access to this. Now, this is something we call Simple Swap. And what it does, when you're migrating services, so when you look to migrate from the PSTN lines to that new fibre lines, whether that's today, tomorrow, next week, at the end of the year, next year, whenever it is, this is something that will be around to provide a seamless transition for you. So what it is, whenever you choose that new VoIP solution, whenever it is that you choose that new connectivity, that new fibre, and ultimately, if you want to keep hold of your phone number, this amalgamates what was three processes into one process. You can do all those things under one roof, which will prevent a loss of service because you're doing it with Lily, you're doing it with us. It seamlessly marries those three processes together. So, for example, when you're doing that process, if your connectivity order is delayed, it will also align the number port to be delayed to align with that. So it all finishes at the same time. Now, the benefits of this, obviously, they all finish at the same time, they all complete, so you don't have to worry about your connectivity being installed before you've actually got that voice solution and you're paying for that connectivity. No, it will all finish at the same time. It's all in one provider, so Lily will be able to provide this for you. It's all under one roof, so if you've got questions about your broadband, or you want to understand why your broadband's been delayed and therefore your number port's been delayed, you're only going to one supplier. You're not going to this person for your connectivity. You're not going to that person for your voice. You're not going to that person for your number port. It's all under one roof. It streamlines the process and it makes your life a lot easier, because ultimately that is what we want to do. Obviously, if Lily can't, if it's something that Lily can't help with as backup, Gamma can help with it. So again, Gamma and Lily are here to support you. It's also future-proofing your business, because again, this is something that we need to do. So it's transitioning using the simple swap method, and that will ultimately future-proof your business. Now, I'm going to pass back to Joel, who will be able to talk you through the rest of the slides.
Thank you very much, Johan. I think it's really interesting hearing that from Johan, and it marries up with what I'm hearing when speaking to existing clients of what people are hearing. And I think everyone knows it's something they have to do, but there's lots of areas they're uncertain of how to move forward. And I think that's where Lily comes into it. So a lot of the clients, existing clients for Lily and prospective clients we speak to, they've heard it. They've had a lot of calls from people talking about the 2025 switch off. And you've heard Johan speaking there, but what Lily wants to do is make that really specific to your business and create a plan to help you move forward, so you understand exactly what is involved, and it becomes a consultative approach to tailor exactly a new solution for yourself to avoid any impact of the 2025 switch off. So some of the things that we'd like to do is carry out an audit, like I say, in a consultation method. So we want to assess what your current solution is, identify any of the services that will be impacted that you've got in place currently. Carry out a bill review as well, because that's always really useful. Not everyone knows what services they've got live at their site. Maybe there's an old fax machine still running, maybe they're PDQ machines. Utilize an analog line. As Johan said earlier, CCTV is a really good one, lift lines, door entries. And sometimes just looking at those bills and identifying those numbers that are there help us see everything that you've got, so you just make sure there's no adverse impacts and we're covering all areas. On top of that, it would be great to come and meet with you guys, carry out an on-site survey, again, just to technically validate the things that we're saying. So we actually go and look at what's on the desks, what's on your premises, and like I say, get that technical validation, so you're confident with a tailored solution moving forward, that you know we're supporting you and there is going to be no further impact. With doing all that, so the bill review, coming to site, speaking to yourself, understanding what your business needs are moving forward, it will allow us to put through a bespoke proposed alternative solution for yourself. I think as well, when I speak to people, they think it sounds expensive, or what does that look like? But from the bill analysis as well, whilst we're doing that, we're often finding that we can save people money, because the legacy lines are actually quite expensive to run now. BT Openreach, call outs, call charges, so on and so forth. So we're actually finding that whilst we're doing this, it's been a really exciting exercise where we've been able to actually reduce costs as well. So it's an exciting thing, and not something to worry about, and something that Lily can definitely support you with moving forward. Like I say, through that consultation approach, working with you to understand your business and mitigating the impacts. On top of that, it's not just telephone systems that Lily look after. I've heard a lot of people, when I've spoken with clients, saying, well, I'm already on VoIP, and that's absolutely fantastic. But as we've mentioned, there are other services that may be impacted. And one of the benefits of working with Lily is with a home and digital transformation. So we've got a big product ecosystem that we can support you with from VoIP, including connectivity as well, to managed IT services and cybersecurity, business mobility, utility, merchant services. So like we said earlier, PDQs that might be running on an analog line, we can provide an alternative solution for you there as well, such as virtual terminals or data terminals to support you. So digital transformation, really everything that we're looking to do from meeting with yourselves and carrying out this consultation and an audit of your business is just increase your revenue, improve your operations, reduce your outgoings, and increase your efficiencies, whilst avoiding the impacts that my colleague Johan spoke about earlier in the webinar, and just holding your hand through that. So what we'll be doing moving forward is we've got a list of attendees, so we will contact yourselves and try booking a consultation. Like I say, it would be really grateful. We'll be really grateful if we can have that chance to speak with you. So we'll try get a date and time agreed on your terms. Come to site if that's required, and work with you to yeah, put something together to get the ball rolling for you. So without any further ado, we are going to be taking some questions if there are any. You can pop up. I believe you have a chat box where you can type them in, and we can pick them up. So I'll start. We've had quite a lot come through, so let's have a look. How do I find out when my area will move to stop sell? So yeah, from Johan's slide, you would have seen it's a little bit different. Like Salisbury's already started, and so you might be thinking, well, what if my area starts before 2025? And there's actually a blog on Lily's website, and we keep that updated with new locations when we get that information through BT OpenReach and through Gamma. So keep an eye on our website. Like I say, you can go there, and there's an updated blog to keep you in the loop on all that. Another one, what if my contract runs until 2026? Will you upgrade me mid-contract? That is all part of the consultation that we'll be running with you guys. So again, we can look at contract end dates, figure out any termination fees. If you're an existing Lily client, of course, we'll be working with you to make sure that we get you on the right solution, no matter of your contract end date. If you're with another supplier, again, there's things we can do to put new solutions forward. What is the cost implication to an SME? Well, I think the cost implication, like I said earlier, people's perception when I've met them is it sounds expensive. But actually, I would say 90% of the time, we're actually able to reduce costs through that bill analysis as well, where we're looking at services. As I mentioned, on people's bills, there might be services that they're no longer using, and we can review that and often tidy it up. And through the other areas that Lily offer through digital transformation, we carry out a full cost audit on services such as merchant services, utilities, business mobility. So often on the other side of these consultations, we're actually looking at cost savings, but that would be fully discussed with you and a plan moving forward. Will the copper cabling with business and homes need to be replaced? Johan, I will pass that one to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Ultimately, yes, it will all need to be replaced, residential and businesses. Now, obviously, whenever that end of life period is in your area, likely to be December 2025, it will virtually shut off. Now, BT OpenReach have outlined, or they will begin outlining, any customers and businesses who are vulnerable, such as care homes or the elderly. Now, they will prioritise those and probably extend the dates in which they can move over. But for the most of the population in the UK, that is a hard cut-off date, and ultimately you will potentially lose service. It's not to be taken lightly, to be honest. It is something we do employ to start thinking about. I'm just trying to sift through any more questions.
Yeah, the other ones, that's an interesting one, you know, and I've just seen about Redcare and lift alarms. A lot of people are going SIM-based with them. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, no, it is. Ultimately, like I said before, it's not just landlines. It is lift alarms. It is alarms and all that kind of stuff. So it is something you do need to start thinking about. And there is various solutions. Now, again, your consultation with Lily will probably bring those to light a little bit more, because they'll be able to talk about the solutions that they've got on the table. So again, I would just advise you to book some sort of meeting in with your account manager over at Lily, who will be able to draft up the possible solutions for you and your business and what works best for you. Yeah. Richard Hayden, what exactly will replace the copper cables? So on the analog lines, it depends. There's various types of products. So it initially starts with, you've got copper wiring from the you've got copper wiring to the exchange, and then copper wiring to your premises. Now, copper will ultimately be replaced by fibre to make it quicker. Obviously, the stats I talked about before, with it being 10 times faster with the fibre, that is what will replace the copper in simple terms. So it's just to speed it up.
There's one as well, and I think you did cover it, but I will go over it again just to be clear. So in terms, because this is a big one that I get asked a lot, is when the switch off comes, will the phones just stop working? From your slides, you sort of mentioned it's more of a phased approach to stopping it. They're not just going to come into work one day and the services are going to be off. So maybe worth clarifying on that, just to clear that up.
No, yeah, apologies if I didn't make that really clear in the presentation. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be like, oh, one day your phones are working, the next day they're not working. Like I said before, there's timescales. There's various points in which some areas go into a stop sell, and then you've got your end of life, which comes after that. The end of life is when you will see some sort of effect on your business. Now, initially, they'll reduce the rate at which you can surf the web and use the internet, and the reduction is quite big. Now, you can be aware of this by doing your due diligence, looking online, seeing when it goes into a stop sell, when it goes into an end of life. But initially, it will impact the rate at which you can use the internet. And then after that, whether it's a couple of weeks after that or a couple of months after that, they will put a call barring on. So any calls that you need to make, whether it's to a friend, to a family, to a customer, it will prevent you from making those calls. Now, you can still make calls to emergency services, but it will prevent you from making calls to any other phone number.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, I think that looks like that's all the questions for now. So I suppose to conclude, like I say, we will be in contact to try and organise a consultation directly with yourself, so we can look in further depth at any questions you might have and the direct impacts on your business that you might have wanted to ask specific to yourselves, and we'll be happy to answer them. Like I say, you can visit our website to book a meeting directly with ourselves. There's blogs on our website as well for more information. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Thank you so much, Johan, for all the information. Thank you again for taking the time out to speak with us and listen to what we have to say. We really do appreciate it. Oh, we've just had another question come through. That was good timing. So who will be picking up the bill for the procurement and installation of the new fibre? So I suppose, again, you might want to go into more information, Johan, on that. But I mean, in terms of getting from Lily's perspective, is upgrading to fibre is what we want to do, and we have no installation costs on those services when we're upgrading you. So in terms of the back end information, Johan, that might be one for you to pick up in terms of who's picking up the bill for the procurement and installation of the new fibre.
BT Openreach will be picking up some sort of bill for all of this, but also probably the taxpayers' money, this rollout. So, yeah.
I suppose as well, you might know a bit more on this. I mean, I suppose it's an investment more than a bill, because they're going to save a lot of money in terms of the requirement for BT Openreach vans that we see all over the place driving to fix the faults on the copper network so frequently. Hopefully they'll see it as an investment to then reduce costs further down the line. And like you say, yeah, the government as well, from a perspective of yeah, like you say, improving the economy through having a faster network.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, Joel. And it's also, there was a stat before, you'll see a reduction on the fibre lines, a reduction in the faults that happen by 70 to 80%. Now, the cost incurred by calling up a BT Openreach engineer, them coming out, then fixing the fault on the PSTN line, they can be quite hefty. Just because there's not as many of those Openreach engineers who look after the PSTN line, because it is legacy. So all the costs surrounding that will hopefully be reduced massively with this all fibre network. So it is for the greater good. It will benefit the economy massively, which Joel touched upon. But yeah.
So it's an investment more than a big expenditure. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that for you, Richard. But if there is any other questions, like I say, we'll be in touch to book a consultation. So we'll be able to follow up after that on an individual basis. So yeah, again, thank you so much. We managed to fit one in extra there at the end, but thank you so much for listening, and hopefully look forward to speaking to you very soon.